Hi, you guys. Katie here, head coach at ReOrigin, where you learn to retrain your brain and reclaim your health. I'm here with our co-founder, Ben, and we're going to talk about how you can break the cycle of that tricky morning anxiety. Why don't you take it away for us, Ben?
Yeah, so sometimes you may have experienced waking up first thing in the morning and all of a sudden the brain gets activated, right? And there's a reason why that happens. In the morning is when we typically have the highest levels of cortisol. And cortisol, we know, is sometimes considered as a stress hormone. I like to think of it as an energy hormone. It gives us energy that is then meant to be utilized. And sometimes if we don't utilize this energy with our bodies, it can tend to make its way up to our mind, our brain, and manifest in overthinking, getting overwhelmed with what we perceive we have to do that day. And it can start this cycle of morning anxiety.
Yeah.
And oftentimes this can grow and grow, and like we find ourselves waking up and just going a little bit deer in the headlights. One of the quotes that we love, we've mentioned it before on this channel, is that never in the history of being told to calm down has anyone actually ever calmed down, right? And that is because we don't think our way out of anxiety. As much as we sometimes try and do that, we actually need to move our way out of anxiety. You might have experienced that sometimes the brain serves you up this thing that we perceive it as being like a problem, and we just keep ruminating on it. We're not really getting anywhere, right? We're just thinking about it from different angles and trying to tackle it, and we never really get to the bottom of it. I had this roommate back in college. I won't mention his name, but he used to be obsessed with trying to beat certain levels on video games. And I remember sometimes he would get so into it that hours would go by. He would just keep on trying again and again and again to beat this level. And I told him one time, you realize there's another option here, right? He thought in his mind that the option is between like win or lose, solve it or not. And the other option, I says, you could turn off the game and you could go outside. It's a beautiful day.
Take a break.
Out, right? Take a break. This is actually known in behavioral psychology as repetition compulsion. And it's that urge, that drive, that sense of urgency that we have to try and solve problems with thinking.
Yeah.
And when it comes to morning anxiety, because as we mentioned, the real root of the issue is simply the presence of a chemical that gives us this energy and sometimes nervous energy feeling. The way forward is rarely to think our way out of it. A better approach is to move out of it. Yeah. So what I like to do, what I found really helpful, is to set up the most simple possible morning routine you can possibly think of. In this day and age, morning routines are super popular. Everyone likes to talk about their really elaborate 12-step, 3-hour morning routine.
This isn't that.
This is not that. I'm not going to actually give you a specific routine because I think it's helpful to come up with it on your own. But I can certainly share some examples of things that I do and that have helped me. And pretty much it just involves sometimes thinking of one thing. So if I find my mind spinning up in the morning, maybe I'll say, okay, this is that morning anxiety coming. Instead of doing that, trying to solve that problem, I'm just going to imagine myself getting out of bed and stretching my arms overhead and taking a deep breath or something. And then I'll say, okay, and I'll just go and do that. And the act of getting your body into motion actually starts to already break that cycle. Other things you can do are get up, go outside if you have access to doing that. Go for a slow walk, can be in nature or even just a slow walk across your living room. But getting yourself moving slowly, fluidly, deliberately, this is the way that we actually start to use up that cortisol that is meant to serve you, meant to give you energy, and allow it to start to dissipate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so valuable, the envisioning especially, right? Just envisioning ourselves choosing a different route, choosing to do something a little bit different from what we were normally doing before, right? We're interrupting old pathways, these pathways of rumination, of repetition, compulsion, and we're just saying, hey, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently today. For me personally, breaking this cycle also, it was really helpful when I recognized what was going on to also remind myself, like, this isn't a dangerous thing. Anxiety, it's a normal emotion to experience, especially in the morning, because it's natural that our body produces more cortisol in the morning, helps us wake up. So when we wake up, if that initial response is to be, oh God, here goes this anxiety again, to just pause and say, it's normal. I feel it's normal to feel this way. There's extra cortisol in my body, and so I'm feeling a little bit more anxious than I normally would. And then I proceed to get up, take a big yawn, walk into the living room, walk back into the bedroom, do some yoga poses, get a glass of water, any of those types of things, just to break up that pattern.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the whole idea of like setting a routine or setting the intention of doing a certain thing, sometimes it even helps to do this the night before, is that then your brain can default to that new routine.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about, oh, what should I do instead, and
Yes.
try and create a strategy on the spot. You've already set it up. You can kind of get ahead of it by saying, okay, the night before, tomorrow, if I wake up with that morning anxiety, as I might, I'm just going to do this no matter what. And that sense of no matter what makes it so that you are just getting out of that cycle, sometimes going to a yoga mat where you're going to sit and take a few deep breaths, and it can be literally as simple as that, but that at least changes the channel, changes the trajectory, and sets you up to literally break this cycle of morning anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we love to hear from you on this channel. Let's get some ideas going. Leave some comments below. Keep them simple. What are some really simple morning routines, some things that you can do that you might plan ahead of time that can get you out of that cycle, into your body, and flowing to use up that energy in a way that calms the system and sets us up for a nice day?